Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to our 2025 Green Lease Leaders kickoff. Um, let's give a minute for folks to continue filtering in. And in the meantime, we have a couple of poll questions for everyone. And as folks are joining, just a couple of housekeeping questions and answers. Slides will be shared with attendees after this webinar. We are also recording today's session, and it will be posted on our website. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A section to submit them, and we'll answer as many questions as possible after the presentation. Okay, great. I think we've reached critical mass, so let's get started. Okay. Sam, can you close the poll?
Good.
Okay, great. I can see that about half of the attendees today are returning Green Lease Leaders, so welcome back. And half are new, so thank you so much for joining us if you're new. We're really excited to have everybody here today. So a quick agenda for our session. Um, it's going to be all about this year's Green Lease Leaders application. So we're going to go over a bit about the program, updates to the timeline, resources, have time for Q&A, and also do a quick walkthrough of what the application portal actually looks like. So a quick welcome. And here is our small but mighty Green Lease Leaders team. If you've probably seen emails from me, but my name is Diana Lee. I am Associate Director of Business Engagement at Institute for Market Transformation, or IMT, and I run the Green Lease Leaders program. Joining us is also my colleague Marla Thalheimer, who is the Senior Director of Business Engagement at IMT. And on the line, we also have Samantha Ferreira. Sam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys, my name is Sam and I work with the communications team at IMT. I'm excited to be here and help you guys with any questions you might have.
Thanks, Sam. Before we dive in, I wanted to give a quick thank you to our supporting partners. Our supporting partners make Green Lease Leaders possible through their partnership and promotion of the Green Lease Leaders program, and also their own green leasing leadership and expertise. These organizations include leading commercial real estate consulting firms, sustainability experts, industry orgs, and service providers. And a special thank you to our champion teammate and friends' financial contributions. With them, we will be able to continue growing the Green Lease Leaders program, updating the program so that it remains valuable, and creating more resources to keep our industry moving forward. Thank you so much. So I wanted to give a quick overview of the program before diving into specifics about the application this year. So what is Green Lease Leaders? We started in 2014 as a partnership between the Department of Energy and Institute for Market Transformation, and we set the standard for green leasing. We provide both recognition for organizations utilizing green leases and also provide publicly available technical guidance to support the adoption of green leases. But for today's webinar, we're going to focus on the recognition aspect of Green Lease Leaders. So the Green Lease Leaders application is open to US and international applicants. Recognition is valid for 3 years, but organizations are welcome to apply before the recognition expires. Many do this in order to increase the recognition level or to keep their company's logo on the Green Lease Leaders website each year. There are three application types: landlord, tenant, and teams. So you will apply based on your role. The teams application is a little unique. It's meant to recognize one specific leasing transaction, whereas the landlord and tenant applications recognize a portfolio. So with the team application, all parties within the transaction earn recognition. So landlord, tenant, and broker or lawyer. And then within each application type, we have three levels of recognition, going from silver, gold, and platinum, our highest level of achievement. Silver is meant to recognize foundational green leasing practices, so incorporating green lease clauses into your standard lease form. Gold recognizes the execution of green leases, and platinum recognizes the integration of environmental and social priorities into the leases and organization-wide practices. This chart is a general overview to showcase the differences between each level of recognition. It's applicable to the different application types, landlord, tenant, and teams. And all of the prerequisites and credits are further outlined in the landlord and tenant reference guides, which are available online at the Green Lease Leaders website. So the reference guides are a rubric for reviewing applications for recognition. But at a high level, silver and gold applications require 2 prerequisites and 5 credits, and these 5 credits can be of your choosing. Platinum has 2 prerequisites and 7 credits. So depending on whether you're a landlord or tenant, we have required credits that Platinum applicants must apply for, and then you can choose 3 or 4 additional credits to fulfill. In terms of supporting documentation, we're looking for standard lease form, executed lease, or corporate policy, and evidence of tracking. So those are the types of supporting documents that we're looking for at a very high level. And as you go through the specific prerequisites and credits, you might notice that some credits can accept corporate policies as supporting documentation, and that we will accept other non-lease types of evidence. But we do want to see at least 3 of the credits utilize either a standard lease form or an executed lease, since we are a leasing recognition program. I also really recommend that applicants utilize our workbook resources as a way to keep track of all your documentation requirements and credits in one place. So I'll give a preview of the workbook tool. So this is a screenshot of one of our workbooks. This tool is available on the Green Lease Leaders website. So you are not required to use this tool for the application. It's purely meant as a resource for you and to help you keep track of gathering the documentation needed for your chosen prerequisites and credits. We have a workbook for each application type, and within that, there are tabs for each recognition level. So you would refer to the recognition level that you're applying for. And this workbook is another way to see all of the prerequisites, credits, and supporting documentation required for each Green Lease Leaders recognition level. So I recommend utilizing this Excel workbook alongside your applicable reference guide, since the reference guide does have the detailed prerequisite and credit level guidance. I also wanted to highlight the Teams Excel workbook. Since the team application is meant to recognize one individual leasing transaction, we actually combine the prerequisites and credits from the landlord and tenant applications for the team application. So what this means is that you have the ability to fulfill prerequisites and credits from either or both the landlord and tenant applications. There are some tenant and landlord credits that are duplicative of each other. So in those cases, you can only earn 1 credit, so there's no double dipping. I also wanted to highlight some additional updates for 2025. The application cycle now aligns with the calendar year. So if you're a returning Green Lease Leader, you may remember that we previously opened the application cycle at the end of the year and closed at the beginning of the following year. But now we are opening the cycle in 2025 and closing the cycle in 2025 for 2025 recognition. We've also updated the landlord and tenant reference guides. They are both live and available on the Green Lease Leaders website. The requirements and guidance are still similar to previous years, and these edits are really meant to clarify the documentation needed for each prerequisite and credit. And we also incorporated answers to the questions that y'all asked us during the last application cycle. For the landlord reference guide, there are 2 new landlord credits about waste tracking and waste data sharing. There's also now a $1,000 application processing fee to cover the cost of reviewing the applications. And we're also providing 2 customized services for a fee of $500 each. So the customized services are optional, and it's really meant to provide that extra support for organizations who would get value from it. And we're offering these application preparation and review calls based on the success from last year. So the review process is meant to provide feedback on your application before the due date and also give you time to make any corrections or consider if you have an opportunity to level up your recognition. So with a preparation or review call, you would sign up for a specific date and time slot so that we can have a phone call together to go over your application. So it would be going over feedback, also answer any questions, and you can sign up for this call on the Green Lease Leaders website. When signing up for a call, please complete your application at least 2 business days before the scheduled phone call so that our team has adequate time to review your materials and compile feedback. But you might be wondering, what's the value of signing up for an application review call when we will provide feedback on your application as a normal part of the process? During a typical application review process, we review on a first come, first serve basis. So the timing of your application's review and when you get feedback depends on your submission time and how many other applications are in the queue. And this feedback is solely focused on updates needed to fulfill Green Lease Leaders recognition requirements. The conversations and feedback also happen over email, so there's not a dedicated time to dig into the feedback or answer clarifying questions. Whereas signing up for a call means that you can pick a dedicated time to discuss your application when it's convenient for your schedule. It also means that we can answer and clarify any feedback questions live versus emailing back and forth, which will help reduce potential confusion. With the application review call, we're also identifying more opportunities for enhancing your green lease language. So it's not just about feedback to fulfill recognition requirements. So it's almost like another layer of consulting on top of reviewing your application. We'll also summarize these findings in a memo so that there's an easy to refer to record of the recommendations. So I especially recommend the application review if you're a first-time Green Lease Leaders applicant, purely for the additional support. We are also offering green leasing consulting calls this year. So you can think of this as your general green leasing hotline. And this is available all year round outside of application times or application needs. So just an example, we reviewed a company's green lease rider as part of a consulting call. And this company was taking its first steps on the green leasing journey. We spoke about the company's ESG goals, reviewed their green lease rider language, and provided feedback on the rider and clauses, and also recommendations for clauses to add in the future that align with the company's goals and would be a low level of effort to incorporate, but still provide value to the company. And through that, we were able to ensure that the Green Lease Rider met Green Lease Leader standards and they would earn recognition in 2025. So the company can now submit their Green Lease Rider and know that their application will be approved and they'll achieve recognition without needing additional changes. So if you're interested in either of these services, please sign up on the Green Lease Leaders website. I also wanted to walk through the application portal. So give me 1 second to switch my screens. Okay. So please note that the portal is not open yet. The portal will officially open on February 3rd, so you are getting a sneak peek. So this is what it looks like when you go to the hyperlink for the application portal. For returning applicants, you'll click the login button. For new applicants, you'll need to register and create a new account. For me, I'm going to log in. And as you're logging in, you can use the same credentials as last year if you're a returning applicant. Okay. So the first step is to update your eligibility profile. Are you seeing my screen change?
Yes.
Okay, 1 second. Technical difficulties. Okay. Okay, so the first step is to update your eligibility profile. So you can find this under your account settings. So under there, the third option, eligibility. For returning applicants, you'll update your eligibility profile. For new applicants, this information will be blank and you'll have to fill it in for the first time. But the eligibility profile is important, so we will gather your contact information, your company sector information, and this is also where you will say whether you're applying for a landlord, tenant, or team application. So once you save that information, when you go under programs, you'll see the relevant application type pop up. So in my case, with this test application, I am pretending to be a landlord. So I'll open up my application. And then to start the application, click apply. You'll have to name your application. So under company name, please use the name that you want on your recognition materials. And then once you start an application, you can see your application under the My Application section. So I'll go into the application. Okay. So this is what it will look like once you've opened up the application itself. So the first step is the application processing fee. You must fulfill the application processing fee in order to access the rest of the application. So we are accepting payment through credit cards, but if you need to pay through another method, please email me. We have several sections. So under additional information, this is where you'll upload your company logo and also choose the level of recognition you're applying for. And then we also have prerequisites and credits sections, and this is really the bulk of your application. So I'll go into the prerequisite section. The prerequisites and credits are structured very similarly to each other. So the first question is, which prerequisites does your company satisfy? So this is where you're going to choose your prerequisites. And then once you choose the prerequisites you want to apply for, it will open up the specific question. So let's say prerequisite 1 and prerequisite 2A, and I'll hit next. And you can see that this is the specific question for prerequisite 1, and this is where I'll answer the specific question and upload the supporting documentation for prerequisite 1. And this is the same structure whether you're fulfilling a prerequisite or a credit. I will say that one thing to know about the portal is that you must complete the prerequisites and credits in order. So for example, you can't complete prerequisite 2 and then go to prerequisite 1. You must complete prerequisite 1 and then 2. And this is simply a limitation of the portal. But once you've filled out your prerequisites, your chosen credits, you'll hit the submit button, and that will automatically share your completed application with the Green Lease Leaders team for review. Let me go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So once you submit your application, what happens? If no edits are needed on your application, you'll receive notice of your Green Lease Leaders recognition. If edits are needed, then our team will provide feedback via email and also reopen your application so that you can make edits. And the number of rounds of edits and the amount of time you have to edit really depends on when you submit the application. We highly encourage you to submit your application early because the earlier you submit, the more time you have to address feedback and work on edits. So I'm highly recommending submission by April 1st so that you can get at least one round of feedback if updates are needed for your application. Because this back and forth of providing feedback, asking clarifying questions, making updates and resubmitting, it all takes time. And as we approach the application portal close date on April 11th, we found that usually the number of submissions increases, so it does take longer for our team to review and provide feedback. If you submit your application on the day of the deadline, we can't guarantee that we can provide feedback just because we have limited resources. And here's a summary of this year's timeline. So right now we're in January 2025. Can you believe it? And having our informational webinar now. The application portal opens next month on February 3rd. And throughout this time, you can sign up for your customized application review services. In April, again, we highly recommend submitting your application by April 1st to ensure one round of feedback. And the application portal closes on April 11th. Then in May, we will announce all winners via a virtual event. So this is a new thing this year. In past years, it's been very challenging to get all the winners to a conference in person. So we're going to try something new. And then once you receive your award notification, you're able to announce your recognition in materials like your quarterly earnings, GRES, other reports, but we do ask that any press releases or public-facing social media announcements be embargoed until May 30th, so after the virtual event and announcement of all Green Lease Leaders. So before we go into the questions, I did want to highlight that within the slide deck, I am including a few additional resources for y'all to review. So I have some information about additional programs from IMT and also additional green leasing guidance, as well as some information from our supporting partners. And I hope that you'll find this additional information valuable. Okay, and with that, we will open up for questions.
All right, so we have a request for engagement from Freddie Meyer. Freddie, feel free to tell us your question. And while we're waiting on that, we have a couple questions. The first one is, just a second. Do the credits need to be covered in one lease or multiple leases?
We are looking for one lease. So you would use one lease throughout your entire application.
And Amber is asking, is the call $500 each time?
Yes, it's $500 per call.
Then Christine is asking, um, one second. Yeah, so that answers Christine's questions. Yes, $500 separate fees. Karen is asking if there is an online list that shows those landlords, tenants that have Green Lease Leaders recognition.
Yes. So all of our Green Lease Leaders are on the Green Lease Leaders website, and we have a record. So anybody who was a Green Lease Leader from 2014 all the way to till now is listed on our website.
Rebecca's asking if it's possible to receive an invoice prior to paying the fee so that accounting may process the fee.
Yes. If you need an invoice, please email me directly, and I will work on that and send that over to you.
Right, Christine is asking if we received our last recognition in April 2023, when can we start our submission?
Yes, so you're welcome to resubmit early. So each award is valid for 3 years. So in your case, you earned it in 2023, so it's 2023, 2024, 25. So in order to continue your recognition, you would reapply in 2026. But if you wanted to reapply this year, for example, a lot of Green Lease Leaders, maybe they started off as silver, but then want to upgrade to gold, you're welcome to do that early.
Joe's asking confirmation on the application preparation call. Would the 48-hour window of the application completion still apply for that one?
Yes. Yes. So for the application preparation call, we ask that you submit your application at least 48 hours before the call itself. So if your call is on, say, next Friday, to please submit your application on Wednesday so that our team has enough time to review the materials and make sure that we're giving you the most high quality feedback possible.
If our existing application was completed by a third-party consultant, can our team transfer the application, or can IMT's or Green Lease Leaders team transfer the existing application for renewal to our landlord profile?
I'll have to dig into that on our platform if we can make the transfer. At the very minimum, I can share a copy of the application, but let me double check that.
Sounds good. Just to reiterate that this will be recorded and shared on our website under resources. And Johanna is asking if there are any requirements around the date of the lease used for tenant recognition and if it needs to have been executed within a certain time frame.
Yes, so we're looking for leases from within the past year.
Karen Jones is asking if these application fees are new.
Yes, the application fees are new for this year.
And Freddie Meyer is asking, why do we only require one lease to evidence green lease adoption?
Yes, so with the way the application is set up, our goal is to see a more comprehensive implementation of green lease clauses. So having several clauses within a lease versus having maybe just one clause in this lease, one clause in that lease. So we're looking for a more comprehensive implementation.
Great. Cassidy is asking if at this time we should be able to see our previous applications in the portal.
If you're a previous applicant, um, right, no, because right now you would only see applications for this year, not the previous year. But if you need access to your previous year's application, I can send you a copy.
Will is asking confirmation on, as a landlord, whether it doesn't matter how many tenants they have, as long as one lease satisfy all the prerequisites and requirements for a gold lease. If they, in that sense, they will earn the designation.
So we need the number of tenants does not matter. We're looking for the one lease with, let's say you're applying for silver. In this case, you're applying for gold with the 5 credits and 2 prerequisites addressed.
John's asking if, as a Green Lease leader, if you're listed as a past leader, does that mean they just haven't reapplied to be a leader, or does it mean that their lease is no longer qualifies for Green Lease leader?
So a past leader means that they haven't reapplied. So their recognition has lapsed.
As a tenant with office locations nationwide, Karen is asking, she's assuming they're only applying based on one particular lease.
So for supporting documentation, we ask for one lease to be used throughout your application, but with the Green Lease Leaders application set up, if you're applying as a landlord or a tenant, we are assuming that you're applying for a portfolio. So the lease, so the lease that you use is, you can think of it as your best representation.
Wonderful. Our last question at this moment, John is asking if, in presenting this concept to his landlord and tenant clients, what is the quick elevator pitch as to why they should consider being a Green Lease leader?
Oh, John, that is a wonderful question. Um, I can send you some materials that will help with that. If depending on the client, at a very high level, green leasing is all about ensuring that one, you as a landlord or a tenant are aligned with the other party. So if you want to make sustainability updates or efficiency updates to the building that you're either occupying or that you own, you need buy-in from the other party to overcome the split incentive. And that's not just for, you know, achieving ESG goals, but it's also about achieving potential compliance with building performance policies. It's also about saving money so that you're not wasting any energy or any water and then paying for that. But I can send you some additional materials too.
Freddie is asking, does the lease we are submitting have to have commenced within a certain time frame?
Um, it needs to be signed, but it doesn't need to commence yet.
Right, and Anne's asking for you to share resources on the pitch with all of
Uh,
them.
yes, happy to.
Freddie's asking, in some cases, we engage in agreements to lease, for example, agreeing to enter into a lease at a future date. Do these qualify?
So I'll have to review that. So if you could send that over to me or to the Green Lease Leaders at imt.org email, we can take a closer look at that and answer your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe that answer applies to Zena. Zena's asking an email so they can reach out with requests for marketing materials. And we'll be sending those afterwards, right?
Yes.
All right. Any additional questions? Karen's asking, how will we know what level to apply for?
Yes. So in general, silver is to recognize like you just started on your green leasing journey. So for silver, we're looking for green lease language within your standard lease form. So you don't necessarily need to have executed green lease language yet, but you need to show that that those green lease clauses are incorporated into the standard lease form and that the intent is to have those clauses in your future leases. And then for gold, gold means that you have the green lease clauses in your standard lease form, but you've also executed leases with that language. And then platinum is the most stringent. So platinum would be an incorporation of social priorities in addition to environmental priorities within the lease, but you'll also need to show evidence of tracking and making progress, implementation and action in order to achieve platinum recognition.
Great. Zena's asking, aside from the portal changes, are there any changes made to the criteria this year?
So the criteria is still very similar to previous years. the requirements are still the same. The only change is that there are two new landlord credits regarding waste. So you have more options to choose from and more credits to choose from when you're applying.
Wonderful. And a similar question from Marin. Is there a summary resource of all changes that occurred in the reference guide form last year to this year regarding credits?
So the best resource would be the slide deck, the slide with the overview of the 2025 changes. Because in terms of the overall changes to the reference guides, requirements are still the same. We were just trying to clarify and provide additional guidance. But the requirements themselves it's still the same from last year.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Um, so Diana, you mentioned GRESB. Does GRES offer points for this? Gina's asking.
Um, Grez. So let there I believe there is a credit for GRES, not specifically green lease leaders, but related to green leasing. So I can actually share a bit more information with you about that.
Sounds great. Jacqueline is asking, can you clarify what years recognized on the leaders page represents, and how does this relate to certification being valid for 3 years?
Yeah, so the years recognized, it would be the year shown is the year that um, the company got Green Lease Leaders recognition. So um, let's say they got recognition last year. So that would say you recognized in 2024, but the award is valid for 3 years. So if it's recognized in 2024, then they would need to reapply in 2027 to continue their Green Lease Leaders recognition. So on the website, if they do reapply and are a continuous Green Lease Leader, you'd see 2024, 2027, and then so on and so forth every 3 years.
Wonderful. Anna's asking clarification. A lease signed in 2024 can be submitted in 2025 as validation, right?
Yes, so anytime within the past year. So 2024 would be perfect.
Wonderful. Any other additional questions? Um, for occupier, you ask for a policy and standard lease. Many tenants do not have it as we have an international portfolio. Katarzyna is asking, so please clarify how this can be addressed, and can it be a part of a policy that describes clauses that we are looking for?
So we can use a policy. Um, it does depend on the specific credit that you're applying for as well. So we can have this conversation offline if you're looking to address a specific credit.
Sounds great.
And I do also want to clarify, when applying for Green Lease Leaders, if you look at the tenant and landlord reference guides, we have the intent section for the credits and prerequisites. And what we're looking for when reviewing your application is whether or not you fulfill the intent, because we recognize, depending on your property type, depending on your portfolio, the geographies, there's a huge variation in what leasing looks like and what leasing practices look like. So we recognize there can, if the requirements, it doesn't make sense for your particular company, let's have a conversation, and we can talk about what makes sense.
Great. Any other questions? Right, so Karen is asking, can the website state valid for 3 years if a company achieves a Green Lease Leader level? It currently says the year recognized and status current. Can it be changed to expires? For example, expires in 2027 for a 2024 recognition?
Great question. Let me let me consider that. I think that would be a great update to the website. Um, so let me think about that and work with the team to make updates.
Amber is asking if they can use a green lease signed in 2023.
Um, it would depend on when in 2023. Ideally, we would be looking for the end of 2023 in order for it to qualify.
Awesome. Betty's asking what qualifies and doesn't qualify as corporate policy because their interpretation of it is quite broad.
Yes, so great question. So a corporate policy, we define it as a document or policy that it's obvious that it's gone through reviews and it has been approved. So as an example, um, if you were to, let's say, write a memo and put your company's logo on it, that does not qualify as a corporate policy because you just created this document. There hasn't been clear approval from other parts of the company. Um, Something that many Green Lease leaders have used in their applications. If there's, for example, talking about energy or different policies in like their ESG report, then in order for that language to get on the report and to get onto the website, it's obvious that there needed to be rounds of approval in order to get that language public facing. So those are examples of what we would accept.
Great. Any other questions? Betty's asking, would a green lease framework be considered corporate policy?
Generally, frameworks, yes, but I would need to see it in order to make that final determination.
Any other questions?
Great. If there are no more questions, just wanted to thank you again for joining us today. I truly hope that you all apply and become Green Lease leaders this year. And before you leave, we do have a quick survey at the end, just 2 or 3 questions, and we would greatly appreciate feedback. And again, if you have additional questions, please feel free to email the Green Lease Leaders at imt.org email address or me directly. And I hope to see you again this year.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.